What if the story you thought you knew was never the real one? For months, fans believed Nick and Alandria were a last-minute couple. Two people pushed together by producers right before the credits rolled. But now, brand new receipts have surfaced that flip that entire narrative on its head. We're talking week 1 photos, yes, week 1, that suggest their connection didn't start late. It started immediately. And it was quietly hidden from everyone. Because when one post dropped online, it didn't just shake up timelines, it sent the entire fandom spiraling into detective mode. All those late-season kisses, awkward pauses, secret glances? Suddenly, they mean something completely different. And the craziest part? A secret kiss, a kept-quiet crush, and some behind-the-scenes manipulation might explain everything we missed. Let's rewind to the exact moment this love story began, and figure out how one reveal changed an entire reality TV storyline. It all started so innocently. Alandria posted her end-of-year wrap, one of those nostalgic recaps everyone shares around New Year's. A few fun videos from inside the villa, some beach clips, a little heartfelt voiceover about gratitude and growth. Standard influencer stuff. Until it wasn't. Because tucked in between all the usual smiling selfies were a few black and white photos that stopped people mid-scroll. Close shots. Soft lighting. Nick's arm around her. Not your average castmate pictures. These looked intimate. In seconds, the comments lit up. Fans started asking, hold up, when were these even taken? Because if you watched the show, these cozy moments simply didn't exist. On screen, Nick and Alandria didn't start showing serious chemistry until the end. But the vibe in those photos? That wasn't an end-of-season flirt. It was two people already very comfortable together. Within hours, screenshots of the post were everywhere. Twitter threads popped up with side-by-side comparisons, people circling hands, smiles, little clues. Others were building conspiracy charts about reality TV editing. Theories exploded faster than popcorn. Either the show hid something big, or the couple was rewriting history. Then, one fan asked the question that changed everything. So when were these taken, exactly? And that's when Alandria herself jumped into the replies with an answer no one expected. Week 1. That single comment sent the fandom into absolute chaos. Week 1. 2 words that detonated across the timeline like a gossip grenade. Because if those photos really were from the very first week, it rewrote everything fans thought they understood about Nick and Alandria's story. Suddenly, the whole so-called last-minute coupling didn't look last-minute at all. It looked edited out. People were floored. How could such intimate pictures come from a time when the show made it seem like they barely spoke? Viewers started replaying old episodes, frame by frame, searching for tiny hints, lingering looks during games, a shared laugh in the background, maybe a touch that once seemed meaningless. Every second of early season footage was being dissected like forensic evidence. On social media, 2 camps formed overnight. One side screamed, they fooled everyone, claiming the couple had been building their connection in secret. The other side aimed the spotlight at producers, arguing that the real scandal wasn't the hidden romance, it was how intentionally the audience had been kept in the dark. And just like that, the focus shifted from what happened to why we were never shown it. If the cameras were rolling 24/7, how did an entire week 1 spark go missing? What else was tucked away in the editing room, buried under discarded storylines and unaired footage? Because week 1 wasn't just another day in the villa. It was the moment everything started. And apparently, the moment we never got to see. But while fans were spiraling with theories, one person who'd actually been there tried to tell everyone the truth long before this bombshell dropped. Her name? Bella. And suddenly, her old interviews started sounding a lot more prophetic. Here's where everything starts twisting into that, wait, have we been watching the wrong show? Feeling. On television, Nick and Alandria's story looked like a sudden spark that ignited near the finale. The edit showed him exploring other connections, chasing mini-romances, cracking jokes at the fire pit, while she seemed hesitant, quietly weighing her options. When they finally paired up, it looked spontaneous, almost strategic. Cue the pundits calling it a last-second survival move. But now that the week 1 receipts exist, that whole sequence is flipped. Those images weren't from a late-game rebound. They were the origin. While the public was busy analyzing Nick's other flirtations, he was apparently sharing unaired moments with Alandria. Guaranteed the cameras captured a few glances and whispers that never made the cut. Think about what that means. The first episode montage of chaotic introductions probably hid something genuine. The early elimination drama overshadowed quiet chemistry that refused to fit into a pre-planned storyline. Production stitched together what looked dramatic, and somewhere along the way, their early connection got left on the floor with unused microphone batteries. And suddenly, all those random moments make sense. The inside jokes that came out of nowhere, the subtle familiarity between them by mid-season, the way their reunion felt less like new love and more like a resurfacing. Viewers weren't imagining it. They were just missing half the timeline. This hidden chronology revealed that every coincidence was actually continuity. It's the kind of realization that turns passive fans into detectives and casual viewers into full-time conspiracy theorists. But the revelations didn't stop there, because one islander, Bella, had already described this unfolding story months ago. And when people re-watched her interviews after that week 1 shock, her words suddenly sounded like a confession the world hadn't bothered to hear. Long before the screenshots and social media meltdowns, Bella was quietly spilling information that almost nobody took seriously. She wasn't being cryptic or mysterious, she was just speaking facts, but in the noisy chaos of post-Villa drama, her voice got drowned out. When she did interviews after leaving the show, Bella kept repeating the same thing. Nick and Alandria have been into each other since day 1. Most fans brushed that off as friendly exaggeration. Maybe she was misremembering. Maybe she was hyping her friends. Except, she wasn't. She told anyone who'd listen that on the first night, during all the introductions and challenge chaos, Alandria had already kissed Nick. Not in the cautious, testing the waters sense, but in the let's what this feels like sense. Bella explained that both Nick and Alandria confessed to her privately that they wanted to get to know each other better. And Bella, being the low-key matchmaker she was, encouraged it. She even described how, during group challenges, they would subtly drift toward each other, like magnets that couldn't resist aligning every chance they got. To Bella, it was obvious. To us, watching only the edited version, it looked coincidental. She noted that their bond felt slightly awkward at times, the type of slow-burn tension that comes from being friends first but wanting more. In another interview, Bella expanded on her observations. She called Alandria a slow burner, someone who doesn't rush into romance but warms up once she feels secure. She said Nick seemed all about her, and that the connection looked genuine even when both were trying to explore other people. Hindsight makes her words sound prophetic, as if she was giving us the director's commentary before the deleted scenes ever leaked. The internet has since turned Bella's old clips into mini case studies. Fans are captioning them with things like, "She literally told us," and "We ignored the realest source in the villa." Once those week 1 photos surfaced, Bella went from overlooked contestant to the unofficial truth-teller of the season. Her perspective reframed the entire romance, not as a convenient coupling, but as a friendship quietly simmering under the surface from night 1. And while Bella gave us eyewitness testimony, someone else, Nick himself, was about to confirm just how deep that connection went. When fans thought the revelations had hit their peak, Nick himself entered the chat, and suddenly, everything clicked into place. In a recent podcast, he let slip a story that felt ripped straight out of a fanfiction thread. Episode 1. Blindfolded Challenge. Everyone laughing, teasing, caught in the chaos. And in that moment, Nick admits he made a move, a harmless, cheeky kiss. But the twist is that Alandria had no idea it was him. She was blindfolded, giggling, thinking it was all just part of the fun. He never told her. Not that night, not that week, not for ages. He kept it secret like a tiny souvenir from that first day, his little proof that he'd liked her from the start. While the world debated other pairings, he was quietly carrying that knowledge, watching her in other couplings, playing the long game. The revelation got even juicier when the interviewer pressed him about other connections. His answer was pure Nick, half metaphor, half charm. You have to go through trials and tribulations to get to the treat at the bottom of the cereal box, he said, which is his poetic way of admitting that he explored other options but never lost sight of the prize. Translation: Alandria was the treat. Fans clung to every word. Picture it. Behind the polished confession was a guy admitting he'd had a crush all season, waiting for the right stars-aligning moment in Fiji to finally tell her, "Hey, that kiss? That was me." That little secret turned into the foundation of something real. Once this story made the rounds, the week 1 photos weren't just evidence anymore, they became the visual proof of a hidden narrative. For viewers, it wasn't just gossip, it was vindication. The underdog romance had receipts, heart, and a plot twist so human it felt almost cinematic. But that's also where a bigger question bubbled up from the fandom. If Nick and Alandria were this genuine, this compelling, why did the show's editing erase such a key love story? The answer would lead everyone to a darker, subtler villain in this saga. Not a contestant, but the invisible hand behind the camera. Once fans pieced together Nick's podcast confession and those week 1 photos, their gaze shifted toward a new suspect: the production team. Suddenly the question wasn't, are Nick and Alandria real? But why didn't we see any of this? Reality TV diehards know editing is everything. Whole narratives can be built, or buried, depending on what clips make it to air. But this situation felt more deliberate than selective. Viewers noticed how every episode seemed engineered to highlight other couples, other main characters, while Nick and Alandria hovered in the background like extras in their own love story. Online theorists began laying out possibilities. Maybe producers didn't want two calm, emotionally mature people front and center when more volatile pairings made better weeknight drama. Some believe execs wanted a specific early season storyline, a different couple to anchor representation or conflict, so they trimmed away anything that disrupted that arc. Others simply argue it was a logistical cut, hundreds of hours of footage, and only so much airtime. Still, that doesn't explain why so much clear chemistry vanished. The revelations made fans reconsider how manufactured reality can be. Those week 1 photos were proof that authentic connection existed, but the camera's narrative lens decided it didn't fit the script. By reshaping chronology, the show effectively turned a genuine slow-burn romance into a last-minute twist. And that single choice rewrote how millions perceived two people. Even cast members have admitted, in careful phrasing, that not everything shown is the whole truth. Little details, conversations cut short, affectionate looks edited out, can shift audience sympathy overnight. When the public calls a couple fake, that judgment might be falling on the editing, not the people. So now, fans are watching with new suspicion. Those sunset walks and dramatic breakups still make for great television, but buried underneath, there might be 100 quiet moments we never get to witness. And in this case, those moments were the entire foundation of the story. But as outrage over editing swelled, another wave began building. One focused on the viewers themselves. Because with the truth out, fans started arguing over who spotted it first, who ignored it, and who called it real all along. That's when the debate exploded into the cultural bloodstream. Once the curtain lifted, the fandom did what it does best: split into factions faster than anyone could refresh their feeds. On one side were the truthers, the gleeful told you so brigade who had been quietly rooting for Nick and Alandria since that first blindfold challenge. They were armed with GIFs, timestamps, and sparkly captions. Their rallying cry: "You don't kiss someone blindfolded and take artsy black and white photos if it's just friendship." Every tiny moment suddenly transformed into evidence. On the other side were the cynics, insisting that a few unreleased pics don't prove anything. They argued it was marketing gold, two beautiful people reclaiming their edit in the algorithm's spotlight. Timing is everything, they said, and this timing screams PR-level redemption arc. Then came the meta conversation, viewers revisiting what it means to consume reality. Commenters pointed out that they'd been emotionally choreographed, nudged to feel specific things about certain contestants, while whole nuanced relationships quietly existed off-screen. For many, this became bigger than one couple's romance. It turned into a study on how TV constructs truth. Memes helped make the conversation fun. people posting detective board collages with string-connecting screen grabs, others joking that Bella deserved hazard pay for being this season's unrecognized historian. Yet beneath the humor was something sharper. Fans questioning why authenticity so often gets sidelined for chaos. Cultural commentators even noted how the edit itself mirrors modern relationship narratives online. Fast-moving, conflict-driven, easily digestible. Nick and Alandria's rediscovered story felt almost rebellious because it was patient. It didn't explode in a single episode. It simmered quietly for weeks. And audiences, starved for something genuine, latched onto that sincerity once they realized it had been hiding in plain sight. Across fandom podcasts, TikToks, and gossip threads, the tone slowly shifted from shock to vindication. The couple who were once branded too boring for airtime had become unexpectedly aspirational, proof that real connection can survive even the sharpest editing scissors. But beyond the memes and debates, something deeper was happening. A collective re-evaluation of what we call reality on reality TV. And that brings the story full circle. How a few leaked photos reshaped not just one love story, but the audience's trust in the screen itself. Now that the puzzle pieces line up, the true storyline feels almost poetic, a slow-burn romance accidentally disguised as a plot twist. What once looked like strategy now reads as patience. Nick wasn't scrambling for screen time. He was waiting for the right moment to tell Alandria the truth about that forgotten first-night kiss. She wasn't indecisive, she was moving at her own pace, grounded by friendship before risking something more. The audience only saw the spark that flared near the finale because production left the kindling on the cutting room floor. Viewed through this new lens, every step of their relationship carries a different texture. The awkward early smiles weren't uncertainty, they were restraint. The jokes weren't filler, they were tension releases between two people who already knew a secret. Even their late-season reunion shifts meaning. It wasn't a sudden miracle, it was an overdue confession years in the making. Or at least weeks in villa time. Fans who once accused them of playing the game are now calling the love story the biggest plot twist of the season. But not for the drama, for the sincerity. Nick's quiet crush. Alandria's slow burn warmth. Bella's unseen encouragement. All the overlooked moments form a pattern invisible until the receipts blew it open. That reframing also redeems something larger. The idea that tenderness can exist amid competition. Reality TV often rewards the loudest heartbreaks. But this revelation reminded everyone that real connection sometimes hides in the background, surviving edits and expectations alike. For Nick and Alandria, vindication came not through confessionals or producer edits, but through truth resurfacing organically, fan by fan, post by post. The story didn't explode because of a scandal. It unfolded because evidence of genuine affection refused to stay buried. And now, instead of being remembered as the last-minute couple, they've become the emblem of the long game. Proof that authenticity might not trend as fast as chaos, but it endures a lot longer. Still, there's one more layer left to peel back. The bigger reflection this whole saga leaves behind, stretching way beyond one villa or one couple, into what this genre really tells us about truth, editing, and the audience's hunger to believe. Step back from the villa lights, the palm trees, and the glittering confessionals, and what remains isn't just another reality show romance. It's a masterclass in perspective. For months, audiences thought they were watching a linear love story. Boy meets girl late in the season, flirty tension, cue dramatic finale. In truth, it was a circle, a connection that began on night one and quietly survived every recoupling, every edit, every cleverly placed montage. The revelation didn't just redeem Nick and Alandria. It exposed how much power editing has to rewrite emotion itself. Behind the laughter, gossip, and dramatic background music, these were two people building something real while the narrative machinery turned them into side characters. When those week one photos reappeared, they didn't just change fan theories. They reminded viewers that authenticity can hide in the negative space between clips. And that realization reaches far beyond Fiji. It speaks to how stories in modern media are curated, how algorithms, producers, even our own attention spans decide what feels true. The Nicolandria reveal became a micro-case study in perception. The difference between what's real, what's shown, and what we choose to believe. Now, with their timeline out in the open, Nick and Alandria stand as a quiet counterpoint to the chaos. Their journey proves that sincerity doesn't always need editing to shine. It just needs time and the right audience to notice. The truth wasn't late to the story. It was simply waiting for its scene. And maybe that's the final twist this season accidentally gave us. That the most genuine moments on reality TV aren't the ones shouted at the camera. They're the ones whispered in week one, still echoing long after the camera's cut.